This interview was recorded in 2023.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Daryl Urbanski, your host as always. And today we are joined by Sheila Marie, Vice President at SM Development Corporation. Her focus is sustainable transformation through analytics, privacy risk management, and policy formulation. For 11 years and counting, Sheila has overseen operational policies, customer database analytics, and critical SAP implementations affecting financial positions. From spearheading the launch of a company-wide budgeting system to managing operational budgets and ensuring data privacy compliance, her leadership has played a pivotal role in shaping the financial landscape of SM and its related companies. I've asked Sheila to join us here today to hear her story and lessons she's learned in strategy, management, data analytics, data protection, and process improvement, while also juggling finances and operations. So Sheila, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me, Daryl.
Yeah, it's an honor and it's a pleasure. So now, before we dive into all the nuts and bolts about things that you've learned, how did you even get started? Obviously, SM is a big corporation here in the Philippines. You guys are basically everywhere. How did you even get involved in business? Were your parents entrepreneurs?
Actually, no, not really. My parents were just a simple. I came from an average family, and yeah, we had a small business, but then it's just a kind of backyard business. So the goal before was graduate, get a degree, get yourself a job. So that's it. So right after graduation, I took the board exam, and then after that, my corporate career started. So I went job hunting. So that's it. And then from then on, I've been part of the corporate world.
Wow. And yeah, you went to Cal, right? And you had
Yes,
a
yes,
Bachelor of Science for Applied Economics and Accounting.
yes.
And
It's
so the
actually a
first,
double degree course. Yeah. So it's a double degree course. So it's a applied economics and then also accounting. So that's a double major. And then so after that, I ended up taking the certified public accountant certification exam, and then got myself a job afterwards in an IT company. So that's where I started.
Is that AWS, Advanced World
Yes,
Systems?
yes,
Okay,
yes. Right now they've changed the name.
EVP.
Yeah, yeah. So it's actually an IT service. They call themselves APTI Philippines at that time. So let's not mention about the year. Okay, let's not mention about the year. But then those were the years where IT services are just on the rise. So it's the BPO is not yet a buzzword. So it's more of outsourcing. So I think that company is one of the first outsourcing company from Japan. Actually, it's a Japanese company.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a part of, before it used to be part of IBM Japan. So it was a great start for me at that time. So I started working, I applied as an accounting, handling accounting stuffs. But then since it was a startup company, I was also tasked to do or handle all other things aside from IT, because
Okay.
I'm not an IT guy. So all other stuffs, other non-IT tasks were given to me. So it was both. Yeah, it was hard, but then it was a good experience because I had to learn not just accounting. It was not limited to just accounting. I had
Yeah,
exposure on all facets of non-IT stuffs at that time.
yeah. I was going to say, graduating and now working in the real corporate world, what were the most prominent differences, or like you said, the immediate things that you had to learn?
For starters, I had to learn at that time. Don't laugh, but I had to learn how to use a coffee maker.
Okay.
Yeah, coffee maker is not it's not really a usual kitchen equipment at that time. Because I myself at that time was not even a coffee drinker.
Right.
I'm not, yeah. So I didn't really grow up drinking a lot of coffee. So I'm more a milk person. But then you see here, I have my coffee.
That's
Now
right.
I have to have my daily dose of caffeine.
Mm,
So anyway, yeah, from admin stuffs, meaning as simple as purchasing supplies, talking to different vendors, hiring people, HR stuffs, and then doing the payroll, timekeeping, those things, and attending to employee related concerns. I didn't learned this in school. So it was a good exposure at the time. Good
Right.
learning.
And then you went on and you worked at ShipServe.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was, yeah. I stayed with the IT company for 12 years, I think. So it's quite long. After that, yeah, I took a short break, motherhood. And then after that, I went back to corporate world again. And
Hmm.
then so I got involved with the ShipServe. It was a short stint though. But
Right.
then that's the start of my BPO exposure. Because at that
Mm.
time, the company is also building their presence in the BPO industry. There were processes that we have to set up. So it was a good exposure. And that was my first time experiencing working with different time zones because that company services mostly Europeans and
Mm.
Middle East customers from the Middle East. So the time zone is different. So
And
I had
how,
to.
was it hard? Because you graduate, you work 12 years, and then you become a mom, and you take a break, and then you have to re-enter. Did you, I guess I would say, what were some of the challenges or hurdles, or maybe there weren't any, but being now a working mom, did you have the typical double work shift that they say that moms, you work a day shift and you go home and you work another shift at the house? And on top of that, trying to keep up with whatever's changed in corporate. What was that scenario like?
For me, I was really very fortunate at the time that my mom was there.
Hmm.
It's all thanks to her. I didn't have that difficulty. It was like I gave birth and then took my maternity leave, just a couple of months, and then afterwards, okay, hey mom, please take care of my baby. And then I went back. I'm very fortunate to have my mom there at the time. So she practically took over all the
Hmm.
mommy stuffs that I needed to do at that time. So I was, yeah, it was easy for me to. It's not that easy, but of course you had to breastfeeding and all that stuff. So
Right,
that's
right,
me.
right.
But then most of it, waking up at night in the middle of the night, attending to the baby and stuff. I was spared of that scenario. So very
Hmm.
minimal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sending love to
So
all the moms out there for the
yes,
thankless
yes,
jobs
yes,
that you have and the work you do.
yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. So that was really, really, yeah. So it wasn't really that big change when I went back.
Okay. Got it. Okay. You progress along. How did you end up with SM where you are now?
After the after a while before joining SM, I was with the bank. After that, then the opportunity came. So probably that's it. And then I joined SM and then been here ever since. So
What,
yeah, initially I joined through under the SM investments wing, and then I got assigned to here, SMDC, the real estate.
now, is that because you had some sort of experience or skills that you developed while working at the bank, or were you qualified even before you worked at the bank? Like I'm trying to get at is what was the difference? What were the skills that made you a prime candidate for SM?
Maybe at that time they were looking for a finance person. Before that, in the bank that I used to work with, I was part of the financial reporting shared services.
Hmm.
So doing management reporting, budgeting, and then so at that time, shared service was becoming a big thing.
Hmm.
And then I think that's it. And then from there was a need for a finance person in SM, particularly to handle financial consolidation related stuffs. So that's where it started.
Got it. How, having seen inside, maybe I should ask this about SM. In terms of how does your role in finance and operations, and obviously there's a ton of data, and data integrity is super important. Protecting data is very important. How does that feed into the other roles and is helping companies grow? How does that feed back into marketing and sales in your perspective? What are critical pieces of that?
When I got transferred to SM Development Corporation, the company is a developer of residential units, condominium units, both high rise and mid rise, as well as horizontal development house and lots. Basically, there's a transformation from there, from the usual financial reports and analysis that I was doing When I joined the SMDC, I got into operations myself. And then the role happens to be dealing with a lot of operation related stuff, specifically dealing with sales.
Hmm.
So sales in terms of was one of the roles that our team handle is managing inventory. So the inventory, the units that we sell, we get a lot of interaction with sales as well as other departments, the project development, accounting, customer service, you name it, it's there.
Right.
So those interactions is actually very key in the selling or in the operations of the whole company. So I think that's how it started. That's how it's interconnected. And then from there are, of course, from that operations, there were data to be gathered, and some of the things that we do, of course, we provide data from from the system that we handle, and then from there, the data is it depends on the requester of the data if, how they will use the data. Mostly, it's used for analytics or sometimes, of course, basis for decision making. Yeah. So that's it.
So what are some of the important KPIs, or do you prefer OKRs? Which, for those that don't know, KPI is key performance indicators, OKR is objectives and key results. What are some of the more important metrics? I mean, there's 101 things you can track. Someone who might be starting out and struggling, what would you recommend as the critical few?
For let's call it KPI. So for KPI or KRAs, right? So basically, it depends on the objective of that person or that company or that department. So if, for example, if the objective is how to increase sales, then we have to look at the data in terms of getting information on what project sells or what project does not sell. And if they sell, who are the buyers? What type of buyers are buying this project? So something like that. So it depends. If the user of the data is, example, customer service, so probably the goal is basically to improve the customer experience. So how do we address issues faster? How do we respond to query accurately and effectively? So those things. And then if the user of the data is from HR, so the data would basically be measuring probably employee retention, employee attrition rates. So those things. So it really depends on the user of the data.
So those are great examples. So for someone that's just starting out, it sounds like from a high level, you want to be paying attention to what sells, who's buying it. And then obviously you want to be tracking retention and attrition. Like just as a real basic, it's almost like leads and sales data, daily, weekly, monthly, as well as who's buying. Now, is that something that you constantly monitor? Is that something that you just check on every quarter or every half year or year? Or
it's actually a constant thing nowadays, and not just here, but also I think in every company nowadays, especially after the pandemic. Data is, as they say, data is the new gold.
Yeah.
Before, one who holds the gold rules, now one who has the data rules, right? So it's more of how you really use the data that you have. So it would really make a difference on how you strategize, how you prepare for the next steps, how you plan out something. So it's all about the data, how you, even how you, the data is something as it can be as simple as how many units are being sold every day, or how many attritions do we have every month, or even how many supplies do I purchase. Those things. It tracks everything from sales to cost, expenses, to serving the customers, to planning the next big thing. So it's all about the data.
So can you speak to that a little bit? Like how does, because data integrity is everything. If you have bad data, then all of your estimates, is it all something internal? I'm asking vague questions here, but again, for the audience that are listening, what are there key principles to keep in mind when it comes to managing data and warehousing it?
For generally, Of course, data is always, it would always entail risk if you manage data. So data protection is definitely something that should be considered at the topmost of how you manage data. So data, if you protect the data, of course, there's the law, which is called the Data Privacy Act. It's being implemented, not just, it's a global law nowadays, especially when the pandemic hits, right? So everyone is getting data about health related data. So those things. And there's a lot of organizations, global organizations that are upfront with protecting the data and how we use it properly, identity theft and all those breaches and other
So
data
how do you
losses.
protect your data? How does the business
Well,
owner protect their data?
as simple as the very basic is, of course, just put a password. Yeah, very simple. Put a
Right.
password. And
Right.
then just don't forget what is the password and where you kept the password. That's
Right.
just a basic. For any simple person, you can just do it. Like if it's an Excel file, you just put the password. That's the basic. And then if you move on, if you're a bigger business, so you have a storage. Storage should be very well protected from as simple as who has access to that storage, right? So access management is very important. And then, of course, when we talk about storage, we talk about preservation of the data, meaning backups. Always have backups. So
Yes.
that's something
Yes.
that you can't really dismiss. It can happen even to big giant tech companies. Data loss is real. So that's another thing. Next is when I mentioned access, of course, it means who are authorized to access or use that data. So it's another thing. And then afterwards, of course, it's common, right? So you have to have normal data securities, meaning data security practices. For a company, of course, there's always a regular checks of the servers or where you keep your data and even access those things, firewalls that needs to be put in place. So it's always a regular thing for companies with big data. And then I think those are the basic ones. And then of course right now, because of the Data Privacy Act, it's not just about passing around one sheet of paper asking them to fill out. Can you put your name and address and phone number and I'll give you a free umbrella or something, right? So it's not just about that. Companies can be sued for just getting data without getting the consent of the person. So that's another thing that protect the data. So even simple individuals like ourselves are already protected because of the Data Privacy Act. They just cannot get the data. A company can be sued if the data was gathered or received without the consent. So
I have a question about that, and you may or may not know the answer. It's okay. If you third party some of this stuff, does that provide a layer of protection? Meaning that if you third party the warehousing of your data or who's collecting it for you, is that almost a way to shield your company from some sort of liability in that sense?
No. Actually, you're putting, from my personal view, is that you put the company, actually, the company is more at risk if there's a third party nowadays, because the third party, at the end of the day, so let's just keep it for the sake of discussion, data privacy, under the data privacy law, even the third party, anything that you outsource to a third party is still eventually falls under the company. So example, company A outsourced this service to company B. At the end of the day, company A is responsible for the service or for the data management of company B. So it's actually right now, it's more of a challenge if we outsource something, because you have to ensure that third party is willing to protect your data. It has to be clear that, okay, we have this agreement that you're not supposed to do this, you're supposed to do this, something like that. Any breaches, any whatever to be reported to me, those things. Any liability on if something happens, it's not just you, we share the liability. So that's something.
Shared
But then, of
liability.
course, yeah.
Okay.
So that's how it is.
Got it. And for those that don't know, especially in today's day and age of AI, we have to be very careful. You mentioned passwords, but even your passwords, you have to be really careful. I remember if you have a password that's numbers only, even if your password is 14 characters long, it'll only take 30 minutes for AI to crack it. If your password is 11 characters wrong and it's only numbers, it'll be cracked instantly. If it's lowercase only, it'll take 23 hours for them to crack your password if it's 11 characters. If it's upper and lowercase characters, you're safe with upper and lowercase letters and numbers at 11 characters, because that'll take about 4 years, and that could change at the time you hear this recording. That may change, but right now it'll be 4 years if you have 11 characters. If it's upper and lowercase, only 4 weeks if you have 10, and only 11 hours if you have 9 characters. So the best case for passwords is numbers, upper and lowercase numbers, letters, numbers, letters, both uppercase, lowercase, and of course symbols. To just
special
to really
characters,
take that seriously, and to really aim for 11 characters or more, because if you have less than that, and I know, just speaking from my own personal experience, which is just something very separate, a membership area, we had to impose that, mandate it essentially for all of our members, and we lost members because they didn't update their passwords, because we had our website hacked, and someone like hacked a user on our site and was using their user profile to send email from our server. And it's just, and there's just these bots everywhere, and it's definitely like a new age, a new world. Can you speak to that a little bit? Are there, I don't know if I'm asking anything are you guys using AI as like a military grade defense of your data in any way? Like, I just came up with that question off the top of my head, so I don't even know if that's a thing, but I know that AI is trying to hack my site. Is there like can you fight fire with fire? Is that happening right now?
I think should be, yeah, it's a big possibility. Well, I'm not an IT person, but then
Fair enough.
your question is very valid in the sense that, yeah, AI is all over. So it's a possibility. But then what you mentioned of being hacked, yes, that is happening as any, I'm not sure with even with a simple as a call, a simple harmless call that you answered, and then before you know it, your bank account was hacked, or they got your ATM pin or something,
Right.
just by talking to you, something like that.
Yeah.
It's really scary.
It's really, it's a good time to have cash in your mattress or in a safe at home.
Yes,
Right?
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. I think that's a valid statement, because, and that kind of leads into something else I want to talk to you about. We were talking about, I know one of your focuses is sustainable transformation. And I want to know what that means, because I think that some of it is probably climate related and resource related, but I think it's also probably related to even what we're talking about now. If in today's day and age, if you did business by fax machine, that would be a tough. So part of transformation, being sustainable, is keeping up with the trends. So can you speak to a little bit, like, what does that mean in today's day and age, whether it's for SM or you think just for the economy in general? What does it mean, sustainable transformation? What are the things to focus on?
When we talk about sustainability, we will always go back to this 17 goals, 17 SDGs by United Nations, right? By the UN. So basically it's from poverty to addressing hunger, health, education, gender equality, the one that you mentioned, climate change, and waste management and equalities, so something like that. So it's all about those goals. So those are the sustainability development goals. But then, given all that goals, as simple as an ordinary person can do his or her share, we as a person, as simple as managing our own garbage, right? So recycling, right? So sustainability can start with anyone. Managing your garbage, recycling your garbage, to be conscious of what things that you use, what food that you eat, and then how you, when you go out, when you walk out of your house and you just ride the car and pass by the road, the garbage that you throw, or if you go to a park, those things, how you help preserve that park. So those things, those spell transformation, sustainable transformation.
Right.
So that's it. It's not just about big, of course, companies, they're really at the forefront of sustainability. They're actually champions of climate actions and building sustainable cities and communities.
Yeah, be prepared. When I lived on, sorry to interrupt, but when I was on Palawan, SM Mall was a safe haven, because I've been working remote since 2012. And Palawan gets a lot of brownouts, but SM Mall had their own generators. So anytime there was a brownout, we go head to the mall
Yeah.
to fit up a coffee shop because we knew we would be able to work. So
Yes.
it wasn't solar panels, it was diesel generators. But hey, power, you need
Yes.
power for an
Yes.
economy. So I'm grateful. Now,
Yes. Yes.
does that create challenges for your sales and marketing teams in terms of balancing the sustainability goals and driving growth? And then even on the retention side, are there challenges that this presents? Are you
Of course, there's always a challenge for maintaining sustainable developments, because especially of nowadays, thrust of most companies are to be able to have sustainable operations as a
right?
whole, sustainable business in terms of, I think for us or for any businesses. So it's always going to be a challenge because personally, the way I see it, if I want to buy, I'm a simple individual. If I
Right.
want to buy, I want to be engaged in this sustainable thing. I want to buy organic stuffs, right? But then if I go to a store, organic store, wow, you get scared because the prices are
Prices,
so
yeah.
expensive, right? It's
And
crazy.
organic doesn't necessarily mean it's non-GMO. I'm a partner in a health
Yes.
company, and that's a big thing. Just because it was grown organically doesn't mean that it's not
Yes.
GMO. Yeah.
So it's how can I really be how can I practice being a sustainably
Conscious.
conscious, yeah, individual? As much as I want to buy organic vegetables and all, it's just the prices are just too much sometimes. And most of the population or the people, they would rather, do I engage myself in buy organic stuffs, or I just buy the usual vegetables
Right.
which cost a lot. So those things are that is something that probably people in the position needs to consider. So even if you buy projects with sustainable certification, there are global certifications like LED certified projects. Those projects are, there's a price to that. So if you wanna buy those lead certified units or projects, it's gonna cost. There's a premium to that. But then of course, getting the preparations to be able to acquire that certification also cost a lot. You also can't blame the businesses to increase their price. They
Right.
had to, there's a big investment just to be certified. It's a cycle. Same thing as the growers of organic vegetables or organic chickens and those animal for beef and whatever. So there's a cost to that. So it's a cycle that I think has to be thought of by people espousing these sustainability goals. So
Right.
those are things, even as simple as getting a sustainable certification for an individual, a training for sustainability cost. Wow, it's not cheap. So I want to be able to add certifications so that I can share this knowledge. But then looking at available trainings, the cost is quite steep at the moment.
Right.
It's either because this concept is still not accepted, so still very few institutions are offering that or organizations. Maybe
Right.
that's why the cost is still expensive.
Right.
Maybe that's it.
So sounds like you really got to keep your focus on what the people want, the market, because there's been companies, and I don't want to name any specific ones, but there's been ones. There's a saying: the pioneers get the arrows, and the settlers get the land. And I don't necessarily think that's always the case, but there's in at least America, there's been some companies that have been they've been very evangelical about certain topics, and there's been huge backlash from people because they just don't want it shoved in their face. Like it doesn't need to be advertised, and they almost dislike a company using that almost like a Trojan horse to put their marketing in, like wrapping. And my research, I think we mentioned before, I spent a significant amount of money and had about 10, 12 people help me go through all the academic literature. And we did discover that corporate social responsibility does improve longevity and likelihood of success for a business, but it has to be like phrased or it has to be framed, I think is the better word, in the angle of serving the community. Of course, legal compliance, that's really important to comply with legal processes, but as long as it's ethical and you're really focused on helping develop the community, that's always turned into a net positive. So it sounds like there's a bit of a dance happening right now where there's policies that from potentially unelected bodies that are trying to impose on businesses of the world. And it sounds like as a business, you're almost caught in the middle where you have these mandates being pushed on you, but at the same time, you really have to cater to the people that you're serving, and you have to follow your data in terms of marketing and sales and retention, right? Like, we will comply as best as we can because obviously we want to be good stewards of the planet and take care of people and be forward thinking. At the same time, some of these things come from unelected bodies. And what are the people that are paying our bills, that are paying us? What are they saying? Is that true? Is that like a dance? Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, agree,
Yeah.
agree.
So what do you feel then would be some of the essential skills and habits necessary to perform optimally with marketing and sales?
Marketing and sales. Okay. For one, you have to have passion of what are you selling.
Right.
It's the basic thing. You have to believe in the product that you're selling. That's I think the basic. Because if you believe in the product that you sell, everything comes naturally. But that's something that is, I think, very it should be innate to any seller or any marketer.
Right.
So to be able to come up with a good marketing, what do you call that? I'm not a marketing person, sorry.
Right,
Good
it's okay.
marketing spiel or something. So it's you have to have this, you have to understand the product, you have to believe in the product, something like that. And then next is of course knowledge. Both marketers, marketing people and sellers have to be well equipped with the knowledge of the product that they sell. You have to be able to highlight the qualities, the good qualities of the product. It's why will I buy your product? You have to be able to highlight those so that the prospective buyer will be able to understand and hopefully buy the product that you're selling, right? So if you're able to market that product properly, so the buyer get to understand, oh, okay, that is something that I want. Okay, that's something that, oh, I can buy that. So something like, it's not about, because marketing and selling it's not, especially in our line of business, it's not something that condominiums are not something that is something that you cannot live without. At the
Right.
end of the day, we're not saying that it's a luxury item, but then something that I can put off for now, or is that something of a primary purpose that I really need to buy? If I'm offered between a house and lot or a condominium, why would I buy a condominium from you? Or let's not talk about that. It's like, why will I buy a condominium from your company? And then there's another company selling same.
Right.
What makes you different? So those
And
things.
sorry for interrupting, but I'm curious because for you, as part of what SM is doing, there's a development part of this too. Like you almost have to try to see the world through a periscope because there's a supply and demand element to it as well. So you've got inventory that there may or may not be churn in due to influences or conflicts or whatever changes in whatever. I know a friend of mine, they're helping develop something like 15 hectares and they're moving the city hall to be the center of this. And that's going to be a huge draw for the neighborhoods around it. So it's almost like they're creating a market for the real estate that they're developing by gifting land to the city to move the city. And I guess what I'm trying to ask is, how do you do that? Because I don't know what the turnaround time is. I know they built I think it's a landmark nearby and it was up like in 6 months, 8 months. But for you guys, it's probably like a 1 to 3, 5 year view when you go to develop something. And how do you anticipate the demand that far down the road? Do the reasons why people buy, how fast do those change? I know in Canada right now, I have family in Toronto and they're never likely going to be able to afford the housing in Toronto because the market has grown so much. Now that's a great opportunity if you can develop land because now you can add, but can you speak to that a little bit? Just seeing where the trends are going and anticipating it when you have to have projections years in advance, essentially. Like you have to mobilize funds today for something that's going to happen in 5 years. And you have to have sales and marketing lined up with that. And if there's big projects on the line, big investments, can you speak to that a little bit?
Maybe just from my own personal experience point of view.
Of course.
Yeah, it's basically where strategic planning comes in, right? For any businesses, being able to have a foresight is something that is really helpful for a business to grow, for any business to grow. Foresight of the owners. So I think from where I am right now, the company that I'm connected with right now, they have good foresight. They are well informed about what's happening around and even within the region and within globally. So that's a big factor.
Yeah.
And then another thing is, of course, that's the data. They have data to help them do informed decisions, of course. And then also they have goals in mind already
Mhm.
set. As I mentioned, SM is really, really big on climate actions as well as building sustainable communities. So even before the outbreak of the pandemic, they're really into this.
Mm.
When they developed, I think when they developed the Mall of Asia here in Manila. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, I know the mall. MOA.
yes, yes, yeah. It was planned in such a way that the whatever weather conditions or tidal waves or tsunamis, it was built
Right.
with a very good. I'm not sure. I'm not an engineering person. There's a good thing that
Yeah,
protects, even though
right.
the MOA is located Manila Bay is there beside, but it's really safe.
Mm.
So they have that foresight, and then buildings are built around within the MOA complex sustainably. So even before the pandemic hits, the foresight is there, the planning was there. Then the use of solar panels, solar energy, renewable energy, it's there. So they're everywhere. And then of course addressing like what you mentioned, when there's a brownout or a
Yeah,
flood, the malls are always open for vehicles to park overnight. It's
yeah,
free. I think as I've
yeah,
heard it, they offer it free just to help out. Just
yeah,
plain
yeah,
being responsible. That's really CSR in action. Without
yeah,
yeah, it comes naturally for SM Group, right?
yeah.
So
I love
it's
it.
there. Yeah.
I love it.
So they provide that, and then not for anything. There's a big foundation that SM manages, the SM Foundation, which helps
Yeah,
out a lot of
yeah.
build hospitals, schools, and if there's a typhoon or something happens in the province, they're always there helping
Mm.
out. Just plain helping out.
Yeah,
Nothing, no interest at all. Just plain
yeah.
helping out.
That's
So that's
that's our
something.
philosophy on our
Yes.
philosophy on the show is that a business is all a company is a group of people that solve a problem for another group of people, and they do it via a product or service. That problems are
Yes.
markets, not demographics. A problem will
Yes.
exist and different stereotypes of people will experience that problem. And through
Mhm.
that, you can just, if there's a game, there's a baseball game. Some people want to stream it at home. Some people want to have a beer with friends at a restaurant and watch the game. Some people want to be there in the nosebleed section or be there with their feet on the grass or in the big box seat, but it's the same game. And it's the same thing when there's problems, job hunting. There's high powered
Mhm.
CEOs that are job hunting, and then there's homeless people
Mhm.
that need jobs. So it's the same problem, but different experiences. What you've said really fits into the research that we did very well, where if you talked about strategic planning and market intelligence. So for us in our research, the market intelligence is knowing what problem to solve, why it's a problem, who wants it solved and why, the cost that they may experience for not fixing it, and knowing who else solves that problem, at least the top 10 competitors, and of course, knowing their sales data, their locations, their target markets. Ayala malls might have a different target. And we're talking about the malls, and I know SM does a lot more than malls, but it's just an easy example most people might be more aware of. But Ayala malls versus SM malls, there may be a slight different in terms of what target market it serves, the offers and price points for either the commercial space or for what kind of stores are in there. And then there's industry benchmarks, and then keeping track of emerging technology and trends. And this stuff all feeds into the strategic plan. The strategic plan is built off of the competitor analysis, the product analysis, the market analysis, the customer knowledge. And then through, like I said, our research, shared decision making, which includes scenario building for alternatives, which you talked about. Like when they built MOA, they were like, right there, that's a good spot. You know, my friend Jerry has a lot there and we can put the parking lot on. It wasn't like that. There was actual strategic decisions made behind it, right? And then there's the flexible strategy. As things unfold, you have to have plans, and then you have your
Mhm.
outcome-based objectives and monitoring, whether it's
Mhm.
KPIs, OKRs, KRAs, and then of course there's project management. And that all leads into where we started this conversation, which was business intelligence, which
Yeah.
is collecting that data, protecting that data, sorting that data, presenting that data, because first it has to have good integrity, because if it has no integrity, then you can't use it. And if it has good integrity, then you need to be able to see it from multiple angles, to be able to gain insights. And then from that, you need to actually make it actionable. Because if you just have the insights, but there's no action, then it's useless. So it's not even data is the new goal, but it's actually making the right decisions and taking action on them from the data is the real goal. So,
I agree.
yeah, Sheila, this has been fantastic. I have a page of notes. I want to be respectful of your time. I know we're coming up on the hour. Is there anything I haven't asked you that I should have asked you about?
I think none for us as questions, none.
And if anybody has questions for you, they may want to follow up on something you said. What's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
LinkedIn is
LinkedIn.
fine. Right?
Yeah, okay. So for those that are listening, if you want to check her out, it's Sheila Marie C. Ma, Shiela Marie, Marie C space Ma, M-A. Go check her out on LinkedIn. You'll know you have the right one if the experience and jobs list VP of SM Development Corporation. Sheila, thank you once again so much for coming and joining and sharing with us. I know that your company, I think you've got something like 2,000, 3,000 employees that you try to manage on a daily basis. And I know that obviously, you had a call during our interview. I just really appreciate you making space to share with me and my listeners so we can all learn from your experience and grow. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.